Hello, crafters. Today I'm showing you three tonal card ideas that you can recreate at home by using small images and a nesting die set. It could be any shape of nesting die set. I'm just having to use these because they are new to me. And I have two kind of winter holiday inspired ideas and a general one so you can see that you can recreate them for any occasion, any time of the year. What you're going to need is like three or more colors, more shades of the same color of cardstock. And you can use them from darkest to lightest, like I'm showing here, or lightest to darkest. You can see that some of them are a bit like marked or have stains or whatever. It doesn't matter because it will get covered. So it's actually a good opportunity to use the pieces that you think are damaged. This is the one nesting die set that I'm using for this card, and the Gina K one is the small images that I'm going to use to build my scene. So all I need is to choose the sizes that I want. So this is the biggest one I chose. It's kind of the middle dice that were in that set. For this one, I am going to try to use a ruler to make sure that it's as center as I can get it. I am not trusting my eyeballing for the very first one. I'm gonna eyeball for all the other ones, but I just wanted to make sure that it's as center as it can be. It's not precise, it's not like scientifically in the middle, but I just wanted to not have it too off, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna run that one through when I'm happy that it's kind of centered. I'm gonna run it through my die cutting machine and I'm gonna remove that center part. I'm not gonna use the center part on this video, but I can save it for the future. And then I'm gonna turn this around to the back. I'm gonna write 2 and 1 on the upper corners, and I'll tell you in a minute why I'm doing this. So I'm making sure to write it on the back, not at the front, and not to write it like put a lot of strength because I don't want the marks to be seen from the front. Then I'm gonna line up the next panel, the next color down, and I'm doing it darkest to lightest. You could do the opposite, and I'm gonna number 1 and 2. I'm just lining them up to make sure that the one in the back is not bigger than the one at the front. If I need any trimming, I will do it before I die cut to make sure that I know how they line up. So this way, I know that if I line up my 1s and 2s, they are gonna be perfectly lined up, if that makes sense. This is just so once I die cut everything, they will still line up and I'm still going to have the tunnel effect. Now I can take them together, center the next size down of my nesting dies, and remove the frame that is already die cut. I don't need to die cut with that frame. And then that kind of removes the marks from your plates and stuff like that. Run it through again and die cut that smaller shape. Remove the center, we're not going to use it. And I already have this panel numbered. So I'm going to do the same thing with the next panel. In my case, I chose 4 colors. They're going to kind of fade into white. White is going to be my 5th color. You don't need that many colors. If you use like 3, like a dark, medium, and light, that would be enough. And you could actually use dimension in between. It would look actually nicer in terms of dimension. I love dimension. I don't know if you do, but you could use dimension in between the layers and it would be more visible. So I did the same thing, lined up this one with the next color down, numbered 1 and 2 on top. I'm going to tape them together, center the next size down, die, and remove the frame, run it through, die cut the center, remove the center. And I'm going to do that to all 5 layers, including the white card base. My white card base, I'm cutting it through just to get some extra dimension, folks, for no other reason. I am using a small note card inside to hide my message. So it's not going to be a problem having that oval die cut from the front of my card. And that will also reinforce the back because the front is going to be very, very heavy in terms of cardstock. And I want the back to be a little bit sturdier as well, so it's not floppy with the weight of the front, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna just keep doing it. Don't forget to number your corners, your upper corners. And the reason we're doing that, it's so we know how to line them up once we have them all die cut. If you have all your numbers facing the top, one for the left and two for the right, you make sure that you will get that tunnel effect because they might be slightly off center, and then you might have to really fuss around and struggle to find out how they will line up properly if you don't number them beforehand. So here I'm doing the same thing with my card base, but I'm going to run it through the card base open because I don't want to cut it through the back of my card base. I just need the front. And then we can glue them together and decorate them however we want. For this first card, I am actually using it in landscape orientation because it's an oval, so I could use it either portrait or landscape. I am actually going to use it portrait as well for my last card, but I thought this one would actually give me a little bit more space to use the little houses, and my village scene. So I'm going to glue this smaller note card inside, and I'll center it. It will reinforce the back. I'll have the extra layer inside to hide my sentiment, my personal message, and I am okay to start gluing them together. Now, to glue them together and assemble, I am going to use glue only on the outer edge of the frame. Off screen, as you can see, I also die cut all of my shapes. I die cut them from colored cardstock because I didn't want to spend extra time doing ink blending and anything like that. So I just die cut them all out of colored cardstock. And I'm going to use that one that is like the second lightest shade of the ovals that I die cut. It's slightly bigger than the white one, so it's going to be easier to line up and all. Now I can just glue it all together. You can see that the numbers are all facing the same side, and I probably didn't need to do 1 and 2. But just in case you could confuse, let's say your eyesight is not great and you could confuse the front and back, then it might be nice to number 1 and 2. Yeah. So I'm just adding that glue to the outer frame because I want to move the inner part and be able to tuck my elements into those layers. And that will allow me to do that because I'm not using dimension. If you're using dimension, maybe you could put a bit more glue if you want to, but in my case, I just wanted to have that extra wiggle room in between the layers of my cardstock. This card is very heavy, it's very chunky. It might need extra postage if you decide to mail a card like this, but every year there are those people who actually helped me a lot or were with me all through the year, and I want to give them something special, a special card. And I'm thinking about them and I want to make an effort. So when I want to make a extra special card, I go all in, as you know. So this is an idea for you. If you have someone in your life that you also want to make something extra special, this is a good idea. It takes a lot of cardstock, so I understand if it's not really your gem. But as I said, you could use white as your inner layer and then get like a light or medium color and a dark color and just use 3 layers, and that would be more than perfect for all of them. You see that the fact that I'm using 5 shades makes no difference. If I had 3 shades, it would be just as good. The only difference is that I have more layers to tuck things into. That's it. You don't really need all of them. Now I'm going to use my paper piercer to just go around inside those layers, lift them up a little bit to make it easier for me to tuck my smaller elements. I glued the houses to the inside of the card, to that panel. You saw me. I just put glue on the back, lined it up against the inside of the front, and picked it up with the back, if that makes sense, um, to make sure they will be centered and straight. And then I'm gluing my smaller elements. And as always, I use too much die cutting, where you could just stamp your elements and fussy cut them. You could also use ephemera if you have it. You could use those pre-die cut sets. There are like the ones that layer up. I forgot what they're called now. Of course, I'm going to remember once this video is posted. I hope you know what I'm talking about. Decoupage. There you go. My mind is not always useless. So the decoupage sets, you could also use those small images to build a scene like this. It will look gorgeous. And I have a moon. I didn't really use that much color on the inside because I wanted the frame to be like more to stand out, I guess. And then I'm adding a few trees here and there. And for this one, I'm gonna call it done. I just want a village, a city scene. I am not adding a sentiment to this one or the next one because I don't really have that many sentiments here with me right now for Christmas. Yeah. And I want these to be Christmas cards, so I just want a stamped sentiment. And I think I left all the good ones in Brazil. I have to go through my stuff here like thoroughly and see what I have. I'll let you know in the next video. But for now, I don't have a stamp. I might stamp them when I go back to Brazil. So I have a snowman, a fence, two trees, a moon, the little houses, and this is it. This is ready. And then we're gonna do the same thing for the next one. So I might speed up the gluing bits. And this is what I'm going to use for my next one. So this one I'm using blues from navy to very light blue, actually into the white. I already glued down my smaller note card, and you can see that this one I numbered only the first and the second layer because the top and bottom are actually different. I don't really need to number these ones. For the inside elements, I have this die set that came in a magazine. If you live in Europe and the UK, you can probably get those magazines. They're wonderful. This one is from Memory Box from a few years ago, and it has 4 pieces already layered up the star. And I also am using the inner white frame that I cut, and I cut a golden one that I'm gonna layer and just tape them the back of them together and then glue them down inside. I also die cut a few trees from very dark green cardstock. It shows black on the screen, but it's dark green. And I'm going to use them for my scene as well. The second gold layer of this die cut is actually separate, and I'm going to cut them all down, and I'm going to use all the pieces separately. I'm not actually using the frame for this one at all for the first layer. I'm going to cut the bottom straight, and I'm just going to glue the Nativity Scene to the bottom of my arch. So I have a straight line. I'm just going to glue it down, and then I'm going to have Mary, Joseph, and the baby Jesus on the very bottom. And then that frame, the other gold one that you can see on the upper left side of your screen, I am actually trim it down. I'm going to actually trim it down and use the pieces separately. So it's a nice way for you to look at your stash, what you have in your stash, and maybe cut the pieces apart and use them separately to get a different look, to get more usage out of them. I am going to do a bit of research online, see if I can find any nativity scenes that you could use instead. For this one, you can use any swirls, any die cut swirls or details that you have. And I am cutting them apart because I didn't think that the shape they are, this teardrop shape, goes well with the arch, if that makes sense. But now I'm going to start gluing things down. As I said, the note card is already stuck inside. You can see that the front of my white card base is actually stained. I don't know how it got stained, but I'm gluing all the blue layers on top. So I don't really need to worry. No one is going to see it. No one will know. And for this one, I was thinking of layering it up like that, like I did on the first one, but because it has the gold frame and I don't want that gold frame to be visible from the front, I am actually going to hold it with the reverse tweezers, a pair of reverse tweezers, and I'm going to just hover it until I get the right position and I can glue it down. You're going to see here better in a second. There we go. So I'm going to kind of close it, hover it until I have it where I want, remove it. Because I'm using liquid glue, I can still fix it. Like I moved it slightly so I can still shift it and put it back where I want it. Press it down and then I'm ready for the next layers. Those golden swirls that I cut apart, I am going to tuck them in between the first and the second layers that I cut. And I am just positioning them first to make sure they are where I want them to be. I still have time to play around with them, move them up or down, left or right. And then I want to make sure that the star that I'm going to place later is going to have enough room for it as well. Once I'm happy with the positioning, then I can come and glue it down. I am adding trees from the same Gina K die set that I used before. But you could use, if you have a more complex nativity scene, you could add, the three wise men or the animals or an angel, anything like that. And then I had these clouds and the stars that I cut from a waffle flower die set that I used on my previous cards, and I'm just adding them, and I just went to town. You know me, once I start adding up, I just can't stop. If you want to use stars as well, you don't have the same die set, you could just use confetti. And then I didn't like that the inside was too plain, so I am die cutting a mask just out of regular paper. It's the same size as the inner arch, the white arch. So I'm just going to place it on top, and that will mask everything else because I decided to do a little bit of ink blending. I'm going to ink blend some clouds with a stencil. I'm going to show you very quickly. It was just to put a little hint of color inside because I didn't like the inside so white. I don't know why. It really bothered me. This is the stencil I'm using. I'm using some blue inks from lightest to darkest as well. And then it doesn't look great. It doesn't look perfect. It doesn't matter. I am going to use a few cloud die cuts on the inside as well to hide the imperfections. And there we have it. I think it looks like a lot, but I like it better with the color on the inside. And then you can see it's a very heavy cardstock card. And for this one, I did start, you can see my darkest, I cut the same size as the white card base because this one I'm using lightest to darkest. And I didn't want the white frame on the inside. I wanted it to flow in the order of the shades. I am keeping that inside so I can run it through and add some dotted detail. I'm going to glue it to my inner note card. And I am going to list all of the products I'm using. But if you don't find them, you can try to look for similars in other companies. Our companies are great. They always come with kind of different enough products, but you can use in a similar way. So I'm going to glue that one, and the space inside, that one is going to be nice and easy. And then I also left the upper layer. The upper layer, I want to add 3D embossing leaves. And I have this folder. It's an older folder from Spellbinders, but I'm just gonna run it through. It adds a little bit of detail, and it keeps it in the thing that I chose for this card. There is leaves. It's mainly leaves. The colors are all greens, shades of greens. Again, I actually used 5 shades for this one, which is overkill. Not necessary at all. Um, and I use the other inner pieces, the other inner ovals. This is the same oval as the first card, but I'm using this one in portrait orientation. And I use those inner ovals to die cut the leaves that I'm going to use for this card. You can see that they are all numbered. I just glued the other ones to save some time on the video. I'm adding the glue only on the outside. This one, I'm adding the glue to the back, lining it up, picking it up with the inside. And these are the leaves that I used. This is a die set, an older one from Simon Says Them, and it has these 3 small leaf clusters. I cut them all out of those inner pieces. I'm going to lift them up, tuck them into, space them out, and it doesn't matter. I don't need that many because I'm going to glue the next layer in between and so on, and it's still going to look very nice. It looks a bit like a wreath in the end. And if I had used all the 4 shades that you can see on your screen, it would probably look even more so. You could do that, but in the end, I thought, you know what? I sometimes don't know when to stop. I'm going to use just the 2 darkest shades that I have die cut, and I'm not going to use the rest. I'm going to save them for a future card. And in that way, you can still see kind of those layers that I used for the cardstock, the tunnel effect, even though the leaves are covering it up a little bit. It's still visible. And here I just am using these leaves like if you did them like darkest to lightest like I did with the other one and just added some red gems, it would be a Christmas card. you know? It depends a lot. If you change the color or the elements, you can change completely the feel of the card. This idea you can use all year long, like I said before, for any occasion. I am speeding up the video so because I'm just gluing things down. Once I'm happy with the spacing, I am just gonna start gluing it down. And then for the next layer, I'm gonna do the same thing, space them out. These ones I'm gonna tuck them in between the spaces of the previous ones. And then when I'm happy, glue them all down. And then I'm gonna stop. I did tuck the next layer, the next color in off screen, and I didn't like it. I thought it was too much. So it would look like way fuller, way more voluminous, dimensional, and way more interesting. But I wanted to preserve that tunnel effect a little bit, so I didn't do it. And then I was a bit stuck with the sentiments. As I said, most of my sentiments are currently in Brazil. So I didn't have a sentiment to use on this card. I cut one that is kind of longer in the vertical sense, and I put it inside, but from the outside, when the frames are on top of it, it covers a bit of the word, so you can't really read the sentiment. When you get the card, you kind of have to open it to be able to see it. But it's okay. I think it's okay. I'm going to hand deliver it to a friend, which is an option if you decide to make one of these cards. You can hand deliver them instead of mailing them and paying extra postage. And then to finish this one, I'm just going to add a few sequins, a little bit of a few butterflies as well, and call it done. I No, my cards are a lot and they are too much, but then you can get maybe one of those elements and use only one and make it cleaner, quicker and easier. I always start with the ones that are cleaner, quicker, and easier, and I evolve to the two invested ones. So my videos always usually flow this way. I start with a simple idea and I transform it into a never ending thing. But I do like how the cards look. They are three different ideas just to show you that you can use anything you have in your stash and make it work for you. I hope you like them. They are very, very special cards. Next week, I am officially starting my holiday card series. So keep an eye out for that. It's going to be very quick and easy because I'm getting ready to go back to Brazil. Then once I'm in Brazil, I'm going to keep it going. Here are the pictures. I hope you love these cards as much as I do. I hope they show up better on the pictures. Please let me know in the comments if you already started making your holiday cards or your Christmas cards. I would love to know. Go into your craft room, find some time, create something beautiful today. Be happy, and I'll see you next week. Bye.